Nick, are you on the line?
I'm on the line.
Okay, Nick, listen, we're going to have an in-depth discussion in a future show about open carry, and I know you're listening to the show, and the court ruling that I read, you want to discuss the Ohio thing, and we'll do that another time. But what we want to ask you tonight is we want to do a show on open carry. In a nutshell, give us the Reader's Digest version of what open carry is and the pros and cons real quickly.
The Reader's Digest version is still being worked out as we speak. Under the latest court decision, it basically says anyone who can legally possess a firearm in the state of Ohio can legally carry that firearm in a, quote, open carry situation. In other words, it cannot be concealed under a coat, under a shirt, on an ankle holster, whatever. But you've got some of the communities now that are trying to hang their hat on a defense of, well, it's a disturbing the peace issue. And to the best of my knowledge, those cases have been lost every time it's been tried, but they're still trying it.
As a law enforcement officer, Terry, I'll ask you this. If you pulled a car over, would you rather see a gun sitting on the seat next to the person, or would you rather, have the person tell you I have it concealed or not know it's concealed?
Well, first of all, they're not always going to tell you the truth anyhow.
Yeah.
I mean, we know that from whether it's whether you own the car, whether it's a driver's license or anything else. They're not going to tell you.
Let me rephrase the question then. You're in your patrol car and you're going down the street and you see two guys with shoulder holsters and the weapons are outside. What's your normal reaction, or most police officers?
I would think that you're going to have them stopped. You're going to have them questioned. You're going to. This is the big issue now and this is the point that we want to bring out, that I personally would like to bring out. A lot of departments haven't had to handle this much or handle it in different ways. Cleveland's going to handle it different than a rural community somewhere. And that's, I think that's the biggest issue right now is that the officers are not handling it the same from one jurisdiction to another.
But it's a state law, right, Mick?
Yes, it's a state law, and one of the things, if I could chime in here for a moment, Ohio, and I don't wish to start a big gun debate here, but Ohio has been anti-gun for so many decades. In many parts of the country, it has been accepted for 100 years. Open carry is okay. Arizona and Texas being two right off the top of my head. I spent some time working as a police officer in a couple of southern states. It's accepted down there, and it doesn't matter if you're in the middle of a rural area or in the heart of an urban ghetto. It's just more accepted in other parts of the country. Ohio has been so far behind the times in accepting firearms. If you look at how long it took Ohio to accept concealed carry, and now they've gone to open carry. Technically, if you want to reach back into open carry, you're back into Dodge City 150 years ago.
I'm
when
curious,
they started the very first gun control under Wyatt Earp.
Is it the legislators? Is it the people? Why just Ohio? Is it Indiana, too? Is it Pennsylvania? Is it the region? Or is it the state of Ohio?
Okay, in Pennsylvania, and I'm working from memory, so I may be off a year or two, but for the last 20 or 25 years, if you could legally possess a firearm and you were breathing, you could get a concealed carry permit. Once you had that concealed carry permit, they didn't care if you carried, a shotgun under your coat as long as it fit. It took Ohio 20 years to even accept concealed carry. The open carry we're talking about tonight is basically a brand new thing for Ohio. Yet again, going back to the west or the south, it's been around for decades and decades.
Well, you had
the police officers out there are just so accustomed to it, they don't think a thing of it.
It's truth. I was stationed in Tennessee as an FBI agent, and I could remember people just having shoulder holsters, waiters, waitresses. It was... You seen that too?
No.
Everybody just carries it, and you got to get used to it, and then once you do, like you said, it. But I don't like, as a law enforcement officer, I don't like open carry. I would not like it because I could see a lot of accidents happening. And an example was, you're making an arrest, and some citizen wants to come over and help you, and you see them rushing over with a weapon, and your first reaction is, who are you?
Well, we discussed this last time I was on the show. I am all for open carry, but I am not for the current open carry. There should be some sort of training involved. When we run training for police officers, we train one way. When we run training for the concealed carry card available in Ohio now, one of the things we stress in that training is you are not a law enforcement officer. Do not get involved in an arrest situation. Do not get involved in an attempt to help a police officer which you perceive to be in some sort of trouble, because it's going to put the police officer in a precarious situation.
Well, Nick,
again, it's a matter, you've got to offer some training to the public, as I've stated on this show and a couple other shows recently.
Well, it's definitely a hot topic, but what we want to do is we're going to do a whole hour on it. And I think especially, like you said, I guess we got to get Ohio up to the times. And the show after us is Firearms Forum. And I don't know if you've ever had the opportunity to listen to those gentlemen, but we'll talk with them also. But we'd love to get you back on here. It'll be soon, and we'll do a whole show on it. I'm sure we'll have a lot of phone calls on that also.
Yeah, thanks.
Well, it is certainly a hot topic, and you need to stress some of this House Bill 218 things and some recent opinions coming out of the Ohio Attorney General's office, because it affects officers working today. And one of the opinions that I ran into recently is they're telling me with police officers, if they're going to be outside of their own jurisdiction, I'm supposed to recommend they get a concealed carry card as a civilian. That's ridiculous.
Well, we're going to discuss all the ridiculous laws, and we will have you back. And you know, this can't be a 5-minute topic. This was, as we call in Radio Land, a tease.
Yes.
Do you like that, Dave?
Very good.
Thanks, Nick.
You're learning. How many years now? John Legato. And thanks, Nick, and I appreciate it. And we'll definitely set up a show.
Okay, sir.
We'll be in touch.
Take care.
Okay.
Thank you.
And it's interesting. I mean, I don't know where I stand. I have to think about that because
you have an opinion. You're the civilian in the group here.
I told you I would rather see a police officer with a gun and not the civilians. Nothing against Mr. Irvine, who's
standing there with a gun pointed at you. Is that
and that's legal.
Is that bulletproof glass?
And
there?
that's legal.
I can see it's worked out in other states, so I can.
But see, he's very responsible. But I don't know who's responsible.
Nah.
You know,
I agree with you. I'd say I lean more towards discretion and less firearms out there.
I do too, and maybe I'm old-fashioned, but something was in the paper just recently, and I wish I would have brought the article in. A guy was walking his dog on a leash. A dog come up to his dog and started to fight with it that was loose, not on a leash, and he smoked the dog. And you can see where that could happen. I mean, we take the dogs to the park, and some are on leashes, some are loose, but it doesn't mean that they're killer dogs or anything. And it just seems like
he should have shot the owner.
Well, yeah. It didn't mention. I don't.
Well, that will be an interesting show, and we'll definitely promo that because I want to get to our next guest.